Now that there's like a zombie team where everyone knows the secret, it seems like Liv's taking on a little bit more of a leadership role. Can you just explain what that's like in season 3?
Yeah, I think Liv has been able to take on a leadership role with this group of people, primarily because now they all know she has like support. I think you're able to lead with much more confidence when you know that the people who you're working with are all well informed, they're all on your team. I mean, Clive has done so much to prove that he puts Liv first and looks after her and cares about her. So she owes them, and she's supported by them, and it sets itself up for like a really nice ensemble dynamic this year, which has been really great. Makes our shooting days much slower because we now have like 4 or 5 people in the scenes that are all very good friends. So I feel very sorry for our crew that they have to put up with a lot more hijinks, I think.
In the finale, Liv was forced to put a gun to her boyfriend's head and pull the trigger. So how's that going to be affecting her this season?
Well, it's her second boyfriend she's lost in the last couple of years. I always say when people ask if Liv and Major are going to get back together, I'm like, well, does Major want to have a job? Because apparently all her boyfriends just die. So, no, I think, I mean, it's a heightened show. There is an ability to bounce back from things that, of course, in our own lives we wouldn't necessarily the same way. But it's also a show where zombies exist and where, while we try to keep it really grounded and as invested with real emotion at all times as we can, it's also, we have to sort of buy into each moment as they come. And so for Liv, yeah, she's lost somebody. If anything, it's a motivation for her to protect the people that she loves even more, and to kind of find herself even more and feel stronger in her will. I think.
Episode Liv feels confident that if humans find out about zombies, they won't go crazy about it. But then at the end, she realizes that like it may not be a good thing. How does realizing that how humans view zombies sort of change her going forward?
I think it's, I mean, for season 3, that is a big arc for Liv. I feel like trying to make sense of how zombies and humans could coexist, if they could, or whether Vivian and Fillmore Graves is onto something and actually it's us against them. And I think Liv is not sure at the moment. I mean, she's had some pretty good examples of how humans and zombies coexist in her personal relationships, but obviously with some bigger threats out there and people who potentially don't care for them the same way, she's kind of got to navigate that going forward. And luckily she has like a council now of people to sort of bounce these ideas off, so that very much comes in.
Going forward, now that Clive does know Liv's secret, how is their day-to-day solving the procedural crimes going? That dynamic?
Yeah, I was concerned once Clive found out why Liv got these visions. I thought, maybe it would remove some of the chance for humour that we've been able to have the last couple of seasons. But actually, we've found so far that it's enhanced it so much because he now knows he has to have a certain tolerance and patience around it, and she still has these same bizarre responses to many situations. And with these different brains that we've had this year, there's like some very heightened and strange sort of interactions that she has. Now that Clive knows, he has to enable those, but he's still caught in a very frustrating place where he's trying to appear normal to the potential suspects or victim, whoever it might be. So it's an interesting one. It still feels quite similar in the sense that they have a case each week that they deal with. There's the procedural element, but it's kind of got like a nice layer underneath now that everybody is informed.
How big of a role do the government zombies play this season on the show?
The mercenaries, the Fillmore Graves kind of world, you mean?
Like the agent that was in the finale, and she's...
Yes.
Yeah.
So she, very, very huge. That's kind of like the big new realm that we enter. We've got the sets for Fillmore Graves that have been built here now. We spend a lot of time in their offices and in their environment and with those characters. So they play a very significant role this year, and Liv is still kind of trying to work out throughout the course of it quite where she stands with them, whether she's on their side or not, whether she agrees with how they plan on handling this potential zombie outbreak or not.
Fillmore Graves promises that all they really want to do is get an island, go do their own thing, and kind of self-segregate. But how skeptical should she really be about, they still have an army, so they might just decide that maybe you don't need humans at all, and we just need to go do, like, take over as zombies.
Exactly, which is Liv's kind of conundrum, I think, because sure, the idea of moving a whole lot of people to an island is an appealing idea, but obviously those things get corrupted very quickly. And I think that Liv is wise enough to know that a zombie army is not somebody you want on your bad side, so she's not going to antagonize them, but I think she's still trying to feel out quite whether that has any legs to stand on, and whether that's something that could work, or what they're proposing has any merit.
As an actor, is it exciting for you that this is a show that seems to almost completely reboot every year? It's like the first year you were against a drug dealer, and then the second year you were against this multinational corporation, and now it's an army. Yeah,
very much so. I mean, I think Rob and Diane have done such a great job at including enough of the elements that we feel very familiar. I mean, the device of having a different brain each week, and having the morgue, and having the police station, and these familiar things that keep it feeling like the same show, but reinventing it enough that we don't feel like we're watching the same season again, and we are watching new dynamics that are created each year. So I feel crazy lucky. I mean, we keep saying, well, what would season 4 be? What's next? Like, we know what we're dealing with right now. I don't even know quite yet what we're building towards with the finale for season 3, but I know that season 4 will be something entirely new again, so I'm already sniffing around trying to find out, like, where is this going? I think Liv doesn't have a lot to stand on in terms of making Major's decisions for him. He has been so accommodating and so compromised. I think she loves him and will always love Major in various capacities, but I think she's very wary of his allegiance. And Fillmore Graves, we don't really know quite how pure their intentions may or may not be. She's still feeling that out. So I think she's very wary, knowing that Major is buying into it. And from what she understands at the end of the first episode, it's us and them. He's totally on board with Fillmore Graves. That's it. So I think she's feels like the rug has been pulled out under her a little bit. And I think actually this whole season she's got that feeling where she thought she'd kind of made sense of what zombies were in this world, and now she's learning that there's this whole underground army that she didn't even know about that has been developing in her absence. So I think she feels like she's the leader of her little world, but she is still kind of like embarking on a new frontier.
At the end of the premiere episode, there seemed to be some real tension between Liv and Vivian. How would you describe their relationship moving forward?
I think there's a mutual respect between Liv and Vivian. They can both feel out that they're strong-willed, intelligent, resilient women, zombies. But I think there is a definite hesitation for Liv to trust somebody. She also hasn't had a female zombie friend yet. Things weren't so great with Gilda, so she's like, this has the potential to be a good friend for her, but I don't think she quite knows yet whether she can trust her.
There's been no shortage of Veronica Mars alums on the show. You have Jason Dorn coming in as part of the Fillmore Graves hierarchy. Have you gotten to work with this character yet? Is there anything you can preview?
Yeah, just yesterday, for the first time. He's such a professional. He's wonderful. It's a huge asset to have on the show. Every time Rob Thomas and Diane bring back characters that they've worked with before, we know it's because they really love the experience of working with those actors, and so it's always like a gift when they arrive on set. We know that they're going to be really wonderful to work with. He's got some great ideas for his character. I can say it's not something you've seen him do before, and you'll be very interested. And Liv is still trying to wrap her head around quite where he fits in into the bigger picture.
Soldier's Brain really afforded her this sense of control and the ability to compartmentalize, and it seemed like she really got kind of into that. Is that something that, you know, we see her have like a bit of a hangover at the end, but is that something where she's like, I should get more Soldier Brain because that was such a empowering feeling? Or, you know, second part is, could you kind of tease some of the brains that she's going to be going after?
Certainly. I think the Soldier Brain definitely helped her detach from some of what she had to do and of some of what she's gone through with losing Drake, and it's very addictive to, when you're dealing with that kind of trauma, to not want to process it. So for her to be able to kind of lose some of the empathy and lose some of the sensitivity around it was very helpful. But obviously going forward, that I don't want that for Liv. I think we should all be able to be vulnerable and in touch with these things and confront them. So She is unable to stay on that, and that has different sort of repercussions in the next few episodes with processing various bits and pieces. But there are all sorts of brains Liv has this season. I mean, one of the earliest ones we see, which I love so much, is Liv and Major on father-daughter brains. Liv is the father and Major is the teenage daughter. So it's the part Robert Buckley was born to play. 16-year-old schoolgirl who's singing along to hip-hop, like not hip-hop, what is it? Pop, very pop songs on the radio. In just like a beautiful falsetto. What else? We've got a dominatrix brain. That's a lot. Poor Malcolm and Rahul, Clive and Ravi definitely sort of bear the brunt of that. And especially again now that Babinaux knows about Liv's reasons for the way she behaves, he's having to kind of put up with things in a different way. So that's a very funny episode, I think. And I think the brains have integrated really well with the overall storylines this year in a way that is just kind of even more refined, I think. Like, the writing is so clever, and each time, like right now Liv's on a Dungeons and Dragons brain, I'll tell you that, like a dungeon master, which has been like learning a foreign language for me. I didn't know that world growing up, but the good thing about that is because it's somebody who narrates and who is able to command groups and has a sense of adventure and this imperious kind of voice throughout it, that flows into her own life and her ability to kind of manipulate situations and make decisions for groups and encourage people to adventure. And so I think that bleed through of brain to storyline has been incredible this year, and people will enjoy that. So that's a few of them. What's my last one? A hot mess brain, that was probably my favourite. Very sort of Amy Schumer train wreck, can't remember where she's left anything, hasn't got anything together. I didn't expect that to be as easy to play as it was, so it's been a confronting season.
It was a big part of season 1, but we haven't seen them since the premiere of season 2. Are we going to see any more of them coming up?
I hope so. There's obviously there's a big absence of them, and we want to know where Liv is from and how her family is interacted. I think the problem has been that we have 6 season regulars that all have their own worlds and storylines, and we want to capitalise on those as well. So now having Peyton as a regular has introduced another whole realm in her work and everything. So it just becomes a matter of what do we get to fit in the story and what do they want to focus on. So I don't think it's something we've given up on at all. I'm very curious. I still want to know who Liv's dad is or where he is, if he's around. And I think that those are, I mean, hopefully we get many more seasons to mine a lot of this stuff. So for now, I think the impending zombie apocalypse has kind of usurped Liv's family, unfortunately. So hopefully that comes up again later.
Robert is blamed this season since he has no more memory, and clearly he has lots of feelings for Peyton, even though he doesn't remember everything. So,
I mean, Blaine, it's been an opportunity for him to reinvent himself. Best thing that could ever happen to a villain, isn't it? Like, lose that history, lose the memory of anything you've ever done wrong. And it's very hard for anybody to hold something against him. And we also have information about his backstory, and the more we come to understand his father and where he's from, I think it's really, again, kudos to the writers for being able to build a three-dimensional villain who we can obviously, I mean, he killed Liv's boyfriend and caused her to kill another one. So it's very hard to forgive these things, but we can understand him a lot better. And with the device of losing his memory, we're able to forgive and open up a whole different kind of realm for Blaine to play, and he does it incredibly well. I don't trust him. I'm still very sketchy about him in general. I think the idea of, that's Liv and Rose speaking, but the character is, that's a lot to try to plaster over. So it's a journey, but he's proving himself so far to be well-intentioned and definitely loves Peyton and seems to be trying to make up for things. So what can you do? Just let it unfold as it will.